emails with your homework. So congratulations. That's awesome. Super excited to see you guys actually being active and really following through with the challenges that Roland's given you guys. So you guys should be really proud of yourself.
And hello to everybody on Facebook as you guys start to hop on and join us. We're streaming live. How's it going, everybody? Happy Saturday. Hope you guys are having a great start to your weekend, or I guess for some of you, it's the end of Saturday. Over in Europe and UK, it's getting towards the end of the day. So I hope you had a great Saturday and excited for today and ready to have a good Sunday as well. So thanks for hopping on with us here on the weekend. Excited to have you guys, and it's been great. Hey, Jim, how's it going? Jim, or Deanna, Jim says hi. Jim do. So
hey, Jim. Hey. So we're better. Kim says we're better than the Today Show. Awesome. Perfect. I love it. I love it. So we'll be like the Today Show. So Matt, what are you doing today?
I am going to be, after this call, I will be taking my dogs for a nice, long, socially distant hike to get some energy out. So we're going to go off into the woods a little bit and take a nice little hike to exercise the dogs and calm them down. How about you, Deanna?
That's awesome. So I've been up early. So I have, for some of y'all that are listening, I have 3 adult children, a 28, a 25, and a 23-year-old. And my 28 and 25-year-old still live with us due to divorces. And so they've been with us for a couple of years. One has been with us a couple of years, and one just recently, a couple of months. They both just got a house. They bought a house together. So the boys are moving into their house together, and we're kicking them out. So today is the day that we're moving them out. So
this is move out day.
This is move out day. We had eviction day. We had I'm not joking. My husband was like at 7 a.m. He was out getting the U-Haul. Like, you're out. You're out. So
that's awesome. I also saw, Deanna, you guys have been doing a little project on your wine room. I saw you worked on that.
Yeah. So, well, not this weekend, because we're moving the boys out. Like, that's like a priority. Like, boys, you've got your own home.
Boys are gone.
So, but yes, we are. We're bricking our outside wall. We're turning this. It used to be, I guess, for some houses it would be like an office or a den, and we bricked it. And we're insulating it, and Roland's been giving me because Roland, if you guys don't know, Roland is the wine connoisseur. So he's been giving me all kinds of advice. So, and there he is. Hello, Mr. Fraser.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Well. Doing good. Getting everybody on and getting started. So we are live on Facebook and have a bunch of people there joining us, and we're ready here to get started.
Nice. Well, we've got a couple more minutes, so we'll just chit chat while we are getting ready. Do we have Dr. Daigle and Dr. Adams, Dr. Lyons, excuse me, on?
Not yet.
For him.
Or Dr. Teeple. I invited Dr. Teeple as well.
Dr. Teeple, I like that.
We've got the whole clinic in today, huh?
I figure if one of them is going to use doctor, Grant can actually use it. He has a doctor's degree, so that's a legit doctor there.
Nice.
Let's see. I'm just looking.
If you're just joining us, guys, on Facebook, welcome. We're so glad to have you. If you're here in the VIP room, don't forget today's the Q&A day. This is the day that you get to have your questions answered. So pop your questions over in the Q&A chat box. We're super excited to start being able to get those in there. So I see some people are already starting to add their questions. So pop your questions over in that Q&A chat box, and we'll start working on those here once Roland starts.
Yeah, Tanya said thanks for getting on early so we can all see our tech is working. We are adding another Zoom account so we can do that. So we have, I think, 3 or 4 now. We're adding another one on so that we don't have a meeting that we have to wait to end to start your next meeting. So did we get that set, Dee? Do you know?
I got it. We're good.
All right. So then this you'll be able to come on a bit earlier now to be sure that everything is working, which is really cool.
We've got 4 accounts now. We're good.
Bonjour, Karine. Comment ça va? Ce soir, I suppose, en France. It is wonderful to see you. Roy, good to see you this morning and afternoon. Hey, Amara. Amara, I forget where you're at. Where are you located? Bienvenido, Felipe.
Long
Oh,
Beach.
Long Beach.
Nice.
Hey, start
Harold.
popping in there. You guys tell us where you're from today.
Morning, Preston. Awesome. Good to see you. Cooper, nice to see you from Amara's in Long Beach. Okay, cool. I thought you were farther away. Steve, good to see you. Antonio
Royce.
in Atlanta. There's Dr. Daigle, Land of Enchantment, New Mexico. Nice. Dan Duran, great to see you,
Hey,
dude.
Dan Duran.
Nice. Kelvin from Houston. I think, Dan, are you in Seattle, Dan? Buckle down there. Falita is in Silicon Beach. Nice. Cooper up in Minnesota. Awesome.
Hello.
What's in my cup, Royce? This is ginger peach iced tea. Ginger peach iced tea. Although I do have some really nice cognacs and bourbons back there, but it's like bad form to have that before something like 12, I think. So let's see. Philadelphia, San Luis Obispo, Preston. Cool. Bart up the coast. I like that. Adam. Welcome, Adam. So Adam's on.
Hello.
There he is. Okay, cool. And Daigle. Nice to
Dr.
see you,
Daigle.
sir.
Good to see you guys.
Welcome.
Marina Del Rey,
everyone.
Vegas, baby. James, it's kind of weird for the whole strip to be shut down, right? Tanya is in
Chris,
Alabama.
how fancy is that? Oh my gosh. Oh, it's a virtual background. Ah, it doesn't count. It was your living room.
California, Michigan.
See,
Nice.
Chris, if you hadn't moved, we would never know that was a virtual background.
Roy asks, how are we here with no headphones? We just turn up the volume on our computers.
I actually am wearing headphones. I got the in-ear fancy ones they use on
I
television.
beg to differ. I believe those are earphones, Adam. I believe those are earphones.
Touche,
Headphones are
touche.
cool. They look like, you got the big things on like that, right?
Yeah, these are in-ear monitors officially.
Nice. James says things are starting to open up in Vegas. They're saying May 22nd. All right. Myrtle Beach. Nice. Spent a lot of time there, Ken. Good to see you. Dolores. Roy, I'm using, if it helps at all, a thing called Crisp, KRISP, which allows all of the background noise to be filtered out and improves the microphone. It also filters out background noise that comes in from anybody I'm listening to. So it's a really cool thing. And I think it's like $70 a year, but it's really cool. Are you guys using that? Have you guys played with that at all? Anybody, any panelist persons? Okay, Daigle. It's pretty awesome, right?
I'm looking into it right now.
Yeah,
Matt
me too.
and Dee and Adam, we got to get you guys on that. That is a
Yep.
company required purchase. Crisp, Amara, KRISP.
Mm, fancy. Here's me just using actual sound boothing equipment, and I could have just got this.
You're just fancy. That's because you're from London. You guys are really fancy there, right?
That's right.
You're doing like if I had I'd have to have my pinky out while drinking my tea, and God forbid I drink it from a plastic cup. That's sacrilege.
I'll tell you how fancy I am. Jay, I've got my assistant, James. We've started referring to him as our butler. We go, oh, James, would you do me a favor? Could you grab the bottle that Roland sent in, if you wouldn't mind? Thanks so much. It's
Mine is
my
Mine is named Josh. It's Josh AI, so it's artificial intelligence in the house. So I tell it what to do, and it has an English accent. So if I say, "Okay, Josh, living room," where am I? Excuse me. Let's see. Where am I? I'm in the. What is this? Family room. Okay, Josh, family room lights on. We'll see if it works, and it'll say it in English if you can hear it. Let's see. See, and the lights came on, right?
That's
Pretty
cool. What do you?
Okay,
what do you
Josh,
use for
family
that?
room lights off. Yeah, so that's kind of a fun system.
What's the system?
It's called Josh AI.
Oh,
Artificial
that
intelligence.
is literally what it's called.
Yeah, and it learns as you go. So like I can tell it to turn on, a scene or turn on the television in the dining room and play Apple TV, or say turn on CSI in the family room and put the lights on dim. It's kind of cool. It's a neat toy. So it's a good shut-in toy.
It's a great
I-
shut-in toy.
I just wanted to show everybody this. Was my gift from Roland. This is how fancy I am.
Oh, very nice.
That is I think it's a 2008 Cristal, Louis Rodrigo Cristal, right?
That
2008.
is exactly what it is. 2008 Louis Rodrigo Cristal.
Yeah, that was to celebrate the birth of Adam's baby, which he just had a little baby boy named Dorian.
That's right.
And
This guy.
yeah.
See?
This thing that-
Oh,
Nice. Hey, Eve, how are you?
Asking how you are.
Hi, Ian.
So you guys drink that now. It's time to drink that thing. That is one of my favorite bottles of champagne.
Thank you, Roland. This is awesome. For all, we're super excited.
Okay, well, let's get started. Thank you guys all for showing up today. We appreciate having you here. Let's see. Let's start with, hey, do the VIP buyers get to be on the actual Zoom portal? Yes, they do, Gennaro. So Gennaro Crenshaw, Deanna, if you want to check and see if Gennaro received the link.
Yep.
Yes, Dolores is correct. Let's start. We had a few things that we wanted to talk with you guys about, and then we'll get into the Q&A from you. First, I want to congratulate you all for being here and for being part of the program and for all of the activity and posting in the Facebook group. It's really, really cool, and I love to see you helping everybody out. It's really, really great. That's what this is all about. Matt, I think, was going to show people where everything is today. That was what we decided we were going to start with, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'm going to do a quick screen share and just walk everybody through the Facebook group. There were some questions, and I think it might help make it a little bit easier to find everything. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. Let's see here. I'm going to share that one. All right, so you guys should be able, this should look familiar. This is the group here when you guys log in. I just want to show you a few kind of key little parts that'll help make finding everything a little bit easier. So the key kind of piece when you first log into the group is this popular topics and posts here that'll show up on the top right. In addition, just so you guys know, that this will show up about one post down if you're on mobile. But the reason this is great is because you can see everything we've got going on. So if you click into the announcements, you'll be able to see all the announcements that we have for you that are live right now. We've got the workbooks here, and you'll see we've got all the passwords that we had all the questions about, and we'll see that we'll have the challenge handbook so you can download here. You can go into the replays section. So each time our replay is done and processed, it will get tagged and be in here in the replays. So it's super quick and easy to find. We've got some networking posts here that you guys have started with building connections. If you guys want to connect on LinkedIn, you can do that here in the networking tab. We've got the pre-work, which was from the first couple of days, if you want to go back and look at a little bit of that. And then last but not least, we've got a section for the schedule in here that's also in the announcement. So it walks you through what the rest of this, this challenge is going to look like. And then, so on top of that, you can also use the left-hand sidebar if you have questions as well. So that you can go in here to the announcements. That'll show, again, all the announcements that we have for you guys each day. You can go in here and find other members if there's someone you want to connect with specifically or message them. You can go in here to events. And this will actually show, we created a recurring event for all the calls. So if you RSVP to that event, it will tell you every day and remind you of the calls and where to view them. And then last but not least, we've got the files over here as well. And there again is in the files is where you'll see the handbooks again, the passwords if you need access to them, and a few of the worksheets that we have in there from the traffic assets worksheet and the related biz worksheet. So hopefully that'll help kind of make it a little bit easier to navigate the group. Again, my favorite feature right here is just that popular topics and posts so that you can see everything that you guys need here. And we make sure to tag anything and everything you might need from the group right there in that section to make it easy for you. So if anybody's got any questions, feel free to let me know. And I'm happy to answer to them about the group. But otherwise, I just want to give you that quick little tutorial and then we can get started.
Okay, cool. And then I also wanted, so if any of you missed yesterday, we are on a bit of a mission to get more people in the program to help you guys learn how to do things, to help people get started, to help people that are having any kind of challenges at moving into the new world that is about to open up to us, that is going to have a lot fewer businesses, and to help more people buy these things, save more jobs, serve more existing customers. And the way that we want to do that is we wanted to add an additional 200 people to this group. We started that goal at 1,000 people yesterday. There's 1,000 of you that came in here. And so far we have been able to add quite a few people since yesterday by you referring your friends and other people that you think would benefit from this. So we have 84 new people since yesterday. We're at 1,084. Our goal was 1,200 to get 200 referrals in. And we have a really cool incentive for you. We like to give away lots and lots of bonuses. And so I'm going to let Matt tell you about the bonus that we came up with when you refer. And this is a group referral goal. So I don't like if I'm in a program and they say, well, if you refer 5 people, but I only know 4, I think that's not fair. If they say, whoever refers the most, well, some of us have bigger networks than others. And the goal is to help people here, not to hurt people, not to exclude, but to include. So we decided to do a group goal and say, with 200 people who come into the program from when we started till, what was the day? I think we were Monday. By Monday, when we get an extra 200 people, and that includes people that are coming through our marketing and through you guys referring, then we have a bonus, which Matt will tell you about.
Yeah, we've got actually 3 bonuses. So the first one is we'll be releasing the recordings to everybody of the LOI Mastery call that Roland did with Grant Teeple, resident M&A expert attorney, where they break down, how to really master that letter of intent and the pieces that should be included. And then to piggyback off that, you'll also be getting the template and kind of boilerplate LOI to go along with that. And last but not least, we're going to have a little bonus call where Roland gets put in the hot seat, and we'll be getting interviewed actually here by Mr. Adam Lyons. So We're going to add that in for you guys, which is really fun. It gets get to put Roland there getting interviewed and answering some of the questions that we have going on that Adam's got. And it'll be really fun. It's a great call and definitely great bonus for you guys. We got all 3 of those.
And Tanya, Deanna answered. Deanna, I think what Tanya was asking is the invite to invite other people, to refer people. So that is just getepicchallenge.com. So getepicchallenge.com. If you share that out with other folks, when we hit an extra 200 people, then we have that $2,000 thing that we have sold that Matt just described, which we are going to make available to you. So there you go. With that, I want to explain a little bit about who's on the call and why. Matt is our head of marketing. He is the guy that got you guys here in the first place, and also helps out on the tech side, and is an amazing, amazing, amazing team member, as is Deanna Rogers, who is our director of member experience. So she is in charge of making this a fantastic experience for you, in addition to us delivering the content and the value that you get. If you have any questions about technical stuff, feel free to ask Matt. If you have any questions about your membership or links or getting on or anything like that, or even this morning somebody asked, how do I use Facebook? We got you covered, and that would be Deanna. Matt, what is the best way for them to reach you if they need anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can reach me, and I'll throw this into the chat as well, but I'll just have it over audio for some of you that are just on audio. It's matt@boostequity.com. And my cell phone number is 858-722-4924. I'll drop that in the chat as well. Feel free to shoot me an email, send me a text, or give me a call. Text is great if you guys want to chat. Love communicating that way. So feel free to let me know.
And Deanna has posted her, thank you, Matt. Deanna has posted her info there too. It is Deanna, Deanna, at digitalmarketer.com. And her phone number, 512-797-5100. 512-797-5100. So I want you guys to see, I hope that you're seeing this is a bit different than most of the programs you're used to, because we actually want to work with you and want to hear from you and want to, not that other people don't want to hear from you or work with you, but this is, we believe that we serve you best if we are available to you. So that's what's going on there. Now, you may ask yourself, why is this crazy British guy from Page, Texas named Adam Lyons? And why is this crazy guy with the amazing house that he's in, which is absolutely 100% real. It's not, he's just got a disappearing hat bill. I don't know where he got that hat. It's amazing. But that is a real background that Dr. Chris Daigle has on. Adam, would you please introduce yourself and tell folks a little bit about you, and then and why you think you're here? I like that.
That's a good question. I'm here because Roland messaged me and said, hey, can you come and be here on this Q&A? And if I could give you one piece of advice when it comes to business, it's what Roland tells you to do, you do it. I've followed that for the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And that has enabled me to own multiple businesses that I paid $0 down for, earn multiple streams of 7 figures a year of income across those businesses. And I continue. In fact, yesterday, I acquired the assets of one of my competitors for $0 down yet again, which I broke down in the Epic Challenge for how we did that. So I'm here because when it comes to Epic, I'm considered the negotiation and deal acquisition guy. When it comes to scripting, when it comes to finding deals, reaching out and doing those initial negotiations, getting $0 down, Roland likes to send me out to go and do that and help people. So that's why I'm here.
And Adam is super smart and also just a genuinely nice human being, as is Chris. Chris, do you want to give a little blurb about yourself and tell people why you're here?
Sure. I am lucky enough to be here because of my experience, I guess, in creative dealings and most recently digital dealings that have resulted in the larger ecosystem, a few $100 million worth of transactions. So I have discovered a thing or two about how to take a company and accelerate its growth. 3 things that I focus on: scale it quickly, make the growth easy, and keep you sane in the process. So I'll be working with everybody on that element of the business. Like Roland said, this is a different type of environment because we benefit from the interaction. So yeah, we're here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. So Adam and Chris will be in the challenge group helping and guiding. They are doing that just to be cool people, by the way. They are excellent examples of good friends and partners in business and mentors to me as well, because I learn from them just like they learn from me. And so this is your team of 5 to help you during the challenge to get the most from it and really go out and identify those businesses. And a lot of folks get deals done during the challenge. We did this about 3 weeks ago, and we had several people who were inside doing deals. Now, if you don't get a deal done, that's okay. The point of the challenge was to help you identify 5 companies that you could potentially do a deal with. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at any time, just ask for help in the group, and don't feel like you have to go faster than the pace of the challenge. The whole point of this challenge is to take baby steps to get you in. And we'll, as you probably saw from the first day, which was super simple, to just change your social profiles and put investor on that, to the second day, which is let's actually start identifying some types and maybe even some specific businesses. We advance a little bit each day to get you towards the ultimate goal here. So with that said, I don't think there's anything else administratively. Let's get to your questions. What questions do you have? One thing I do want to do before that, though, is remember we give out bonuses and prizes and cool things if you did your homework and if you participate. So in the Facebook group, on the Zoom call, would you please put did it in the chat? Just give me some did it's if you did your homework and you are good. I love that. I love seeing all those people coming in. That's fantastic. I love it. Julian, Jean, Andrew, Dolores, Ken, Russ. That's awesome. Cooper, faster than I can even read. Awesome. Renee, Garrett, fantastic. Min Kim, Felicita, Calvin. Awesome. Rodney, Edna, Sunny, and I'm just on the Zoom that I'm reading this. We got all kinds of people on Facebook as well. So thank you guys. That is, and did it, Tanya? Yeah, did day 1, still working on day 2. That's totally fine. That's also why we started on Thursday. You get today and tomorrow to kind of catch up and review if you haven't had a chance to get everything done. That is fantastic. Dolores, you got your investment group SPV filed. Love it, love it, love it. Gio got your trust founded. I love it. Not only that, now we got you thinking should buy out your partner and buy their business. Yes, James, absolutely. Buy your partners out. Love it. Okay, did it's are great. Thank you. So now let's go and ask any questions that you have about anything that we've done so far. Please don't ask questions that aren't related to what we have done so far, because we want to get everybody who has questions about the specific things we have assigned and taught answered first. If we have extra time to answer those other questions, we can. Also, feel free to post them in the Facebook group. Dee, you are the master of all questions. What do you have for us?
All right, this one is from Corey Sewell. Says most of the information so far is focused on acquiring assets around a core business. If I don't currently have a core business and I'm looking to acquire one, are there any other additional things I should be looking for?
Yes. So I'm going to let Adam. Do you want to have a comment about that first, and then I will chime in?
Yes, that works for me. So most of them are about acquiring businesses. The question, just to get the back end of it again, Deanna, it was, is there anything else they should be looking for?
It's basically, he doesn't have a business right now. And we've taught around researching, starting with some sort of core business idea. And then we taught the sheets about how to go around the core business you've got. So he doesn't have one now. So any additional guidance on finding one?
I've actually got tons of ideas for you on this. So one, obviously you could come up with an idea for a business that you want to run. However, one of the people that is in the challenge right now joined the challenge without a real business that they wanted to do anything with. And what they've been doing is acquiring, using the same skill set to acquire Facebook groups to get leads as generators that they can use to sell to other people to make money that way. So they're actually using the exact same skill set. So rather than build a business, actually take control of Facebook groups to get a ton of potential customers that they can then use to negotiate other deals. And that in itself can be a lead generation business.
Cool. I love that. Chris, anything to add to that?
I would say it's actually a pretty good position to be in if you're not encumbered by obligation when it comes to your future. You can pick any industry you want, and you're going to be able to shortcut the process of, getting any kind of permitting or hiring people and firing people and building all that. You get to just like leapfrog all of that stuff into like I say the dream business, but like anything you want. So I think that's actually a good place to be.
Okay, love it. Yeah, and so here's the deal. Number one, the one thing that impacts the success of any business the most in terms of growth and in terms of your ability to maximize your exit, which is what we're all about here in the end, right? We're buying these businesses. We can operate them and keep them to make income, but ultimately you're going to make a whole lot more money in your lifetime if you are selling these businesses, because they sell for multiples of profit, right? Multiples of SDE, seller discretionary earnings, multiples of EBITDA, whatever the profit definition is based on where we are in the ecosystem. They are selling for a multiple of that, which means that every time that you sell a business, let's say that you sell a business out to private equity at a 12 times multiple. That means when you sell that business, you just got paid 12 years of income. You would have had to hold that business for 12 more years, over a decade, right, to get that payday. You get that now. And because you have the skill set that you're learning here to be able to buy as many businesses as you like, and you have an infinite checkbook because you don't have to come out of pocket yourself, why not, instead of holding on to them, buy them and sell them? If you could sell a business every 2 years, that means at a 12 multiple, that means that you would be making 6 years of income every single year. So imagine after 10 years goes by, you would have 60 years of income compared to had you just held onto that business. And if you're flipping more frequently or 2 or 3 times a year, then that number just gets insane. So it's really fine that you don't know what kind of business you want to buy right now, because the ability to buy multiple businesses exists. And we want to look at that the industries that are on the uptick first, or the sub-segments of existing industries that are on the uptick. And that's a great place to go. We also prefer that you have experience in the type of business that you're going in. So some skill set in the niche, because I've experienced in the investment banking world, in that higher level world, that they believe that they can take somebody from the manufacturing industry that's manufacturing clothing and move that person over to a service business that's providing accounting services, and that management team should be able, because management's management, they should be able to do that. But it's just not true. It's just not true. Management skill sets, yes, but contacts are all the difference. So to the extent that you have contacts and experience in an industry, I would look there, provided that the third filter applies, which is that you actually enjoy it, right? It's got to be something that you're interested in, because you will find a way in your subconscious to sabotage any success you have in anything that you do not actually enjoy doing, particularly if you actively don't enjoy doing it. So let's look for, if you don't have an existing business right now, let's look for industries that are going up. Where can you find this? Go to the Googles, right? Look for a list of industries that are trending up right now. There are lots of reports, JWT Intelligence, Mary Meeker's report, the trendwatching.com, trendhunter.com, Ibis World. All of those are sources for trend information. Google Trends will also help you. And you can look at the things that are upticking right now industry-wise, and then find something within there, ideally that you like, and that you know something and have some experience about. And if you do that, that's going to give you the greatest chance of success. You can also just decide, I've always wanted to own a pet hotel. And then you can go and do that business too. That would be lower on the list of ideals, not out of the question, just lower on the list of ideals. So I hope that helps you. Okay, Dee.
Awesome. Okay, the next question is from Kim. She says, how can I use a nonprofit to use as an SPV?
Say that one more time.
How do I use a nonprofit as an SPV?
Yeah, nonprofit isn't a good SPV, so don't. Just the answer is don't. That's we are in this business to make money. Nonprofits are in the business of serving others, which is great. So you can have a nonprofit that you contribute some of your successful earnings from doing this program to, but don't make that your SPV. It's not the right entity because of the ownership structure.
Awesome. And then Tanya Miller, hi Tanya, says, do you have a recommendation for LLC versus S Corp for the SVP? Because I already own one business and my accountant recommended the S Corp.
Yeah, it really depends on where you are. So it's a very, it can get to be a very technical question. You want to talk to your accountant and your attorney because they know your specific situation. But just overall, I personally prefer using C corporations because right now, C corporation tax rates are at 21%. You can establish that corporation in a state that doesn't have income taxes like Nevada or Texas or Alaska, or I forget which of the Dakotas, or Wyoming or Florida. There are 7 states that don't have state income taxes. So if you form your SPV as a C corporation in one of those states, then the profits from that will stop there. There are arguments about double taxation, which we don't have time to talk about here, but we do talk about that in the legal calls. So, you can ask about that there. But to me, ultimately, you either want to use an LLC or a C corporation if you're in the United States, or some sort of limited liability entity if you are in the UK or Europe or Australia or Canada. That might be a PTY or a PLC or a limited company, but you don't want a nonprofit, and you don't want a company that passes the profits through to you like to me like an LLC does. I don't generally use LLCs, or like an S corporation in the United States does. Better to have a place where you can stop the profit pass through, and then you can elect to structure yourself in a way that passes that profit through.
Awesome. One of our dear friends, hey Jim Do.
Hey Jim.
All right. He has a question, and this is a good one. If you have a successful business, how do you?
It was bound to happen, Deanna. He was bound to ask a good one eventually.
I know.
Let's give Jim a hand. I'm just giving him a hard time. We love Jim.
We love Jim. So he asked, if you have a successful business, which we know you do, how do you keep from taking your eye off the ball while pursuing and buying other businesses?
How do you continue what? Say that one more time.
How do you keep from taking your eye off the ball while pursuing buying the other businesses?
Well, that's a time management question, Jim. I think that's just blocking your time out and saying, I want to dedicate this much time to this activity. So you have your existing. Jim is one of the best virtual family office guys in the business. So for all of you that are listening, and a good friend, and so he's got a business where he helps out wealthy entrepreneurs plan their taxes and things like that. He'd actually be a good person to ask that S corporation question to. But you have, Jim, the time that you need to focus on that business. And I know you're scaling that by adding other planners and things like that, advisors. But I think that to carve out a period of time, either on a weekly basis, depending on how well you work, like if you focus best in a block of 4 hours, let's say, then carve yourself out 4 or 5 hours during the week that is dedicated, that you make an appointment to do M&A activities, mergers and acquisitions activities. And then you will have that scheduled in your calendar. It'll be blocked out. You'll know that you're going to focus time on it, because you need to be doing your outreach all the time, right? You want to be doing your outreach in this all the time, because deal flow is important. So the biggest mistake I see people make when they get into this is that they find the first opportunity and they stop doing everything else. They stop doing their outreach, and then they focus on that one deal. And then that one deal becomes so precious because it is everything, and they fall in love with it, and they hold it and they cuddle it and they, hug it. And ultimately they'll make a bad deal because that's the only deal that they've got, and they're not willing to walk away from it. And there's no deal flow when it doesn't work out. They either pay too much for it because they were too in love with it, or they let the deal go and then find that they have to go and start everything over again. So block that time. That's the best thing you can do, Jim.
Awesome. This next one is from Gareth Kemp. Hey, Gareth. It says, we're working in marketing with a couple of bricks and mortar companies who are actively looking to expand, but organically expanding. This strategy seems to be a great option for them as well. So any suggestions on how to structure that type of deal where we're helping them to expand via acquisition?
Okay, awesome. I'm going to let Dr. Daigle take that.
Hey, can you repeat the question, please, Deanna?
Sure. We're working in marketing with a couple of brick and mortar companies who are actively looking to expand, but organically. This strategy seems to be a great option for them as well. So any suggestions on how do you structure that type of deal where we're helping them to expand via the acquisition?
So a very common experience that people have had in the challenge and just doing this legs model has been that as they approach people and start to first figure out why the problem in the first place, why are these people interested in selling, and then becoming a problem solver, the dialogue a lot of times turns into some sort of a relationship that results in either you receiving compensation, you receiving equity, or you receiving both in exchange for the expertise that you're going to be applying to that business. So if organic growth is their goal, I would be, as I mentioned earlier, one of the things that I focus on is scaling quickly. I don't know that brick and mortar, particularly now, and organic growth are a formula for high velocity, for anything exciting to happen in 2020 and maybe even 2021. So that would be something that I would bring to them and let them know that without some asymmetrical, creative, direct response, whatever type of marketing or specialty that you can bring to the business, they're probably they're not looking at a very bright Q3, Q4, and beyond. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, Adam, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think, coming on board as a consultancy or as a consultant that runs multiple different physical businesses where you're optimizing your advice across different structures is really solid. So I know that in my own company, I actually run once a month. I have a full day where I bring in all the companies I've acquired, and I'll often use them as a case study. So in a similar kind of situation, you could have these other brick and mortar stores almost coming in once a month to come and have a training, and you can pick and use them as case studies for each other, showing them what's working, how to grow and scale. And you can, and there's different ways of structuring this, obviously. For some of the companies that I've been helping recently, you can monetize it, that advice is worth money and is worth an investment in each of them. You can have it that they owe you that money, and then you can use that money as part of a buyout to buy each of them. There's a lot of really cool ways to structure this, which is, kind of what we're doing in the Epic Challenge, is helping people with this kind of stuff. But yeah, I think actually, this is a big lesson that Roland gave me many years ago. It's, you really want to be above the company rather than in it. And when there's more companies you're working on, it's actually easier for you because you can't get into the weeds and you have to have this bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that I don't have any problem with brick and mortar at all. I think it is going to be tough going for it to come back, but therein lies tremendous opportunity for you. So once you get into a brick and mortar, there are lots and lots of ways to grow it. So we do know lots of people in everything from restaurants to gyms to live events that have pivoted, and there are a lot of new strategies to growing those types of businesses. So it wouldn't scare me at all. But like Chris said, it's definitely going to be tougher going. Now, what's cool about that is if you are creative and you apply some of the new growth strategies that are proving to be very effective, then you have a tremendous advantage because your competition is frozen in fear and doesn't really know what to do. And so it's going to take them a long time. Like what Chris was saying is speaking to the market. The market's going to take a long time to come back, but the chance for you to be an outlier in that market is really great. Now, it will require more work and more creativity than if you were to do a different kind of deal, like if you're not doing a B&M deal, but that is absolutely tremendous opportunity. And speaking to another question regarding turnarounds, also great opportunity, but it will take you more work to do. One of the deals that we did that we go over case study for on, I think, day 4 or day 5 was a deal that we bought that went into bankruptcy. And I flew up to San Francisco and went to the bankruptcy court auction. And we ultimately ended up acquiring that company. And that meant that it had more hair on it, they say. It was a little more complicated, but it was a great deal. And now that's a fantastic portfolio company for us. So it does take more. I'd love to see you guys first focus on the simple and then move to the more complex. First focus on the simple, then move to the more complex. But you can absolutely do turnarounds. You can absolutely do deals out of bankruptcy. You can absolutely do B&M deals.
Actually, I'd love to add Roland as well, because obviously one of the case studies that Roland does with me is Roland guided me through buying my first brick and mortar store. So I have a gaming store, and obviously right now we have to be closed. So a lot of the gaming stores are going bankrupt. What we did was we halted all of our rent because that was available to us as an option, which reduced all of our costs. And then we negotiated a bigger discount on the products that we get due to this time. Now we've switched and we're doing phone sales, contacting all of our customers and doing direct phone sales with them. So we're still operating, except our costs are almost zero. All of our staff we removed from hourly and put them on commission-based sales. And so now our staff are making phone sales. We're still making sales at a higher profit margin with no costs, getting a discount because we own a brick and mortar store that we're not paying for. Thank you, Roland.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Dee?
All right, this is from Ken Hardison. Ken says, how do you evaluate a price for a Facebook group?
Yeah, so there are lots of ways to do that. Have either of you guys bought Facebook groups recently? If not, if you have, I'll let you talk. Otherwise, I'll answer.
Yeah, I've acquired a couple. And it's funny when you talk about like the value. I mean, I didn't pay anything for them, Roland, but that's because of you. So it's how do you evaluate it? I've evaluated it as it's worth lots of money to me and it cost me zero. But again, it's most of the time you got to remember most good opportunities in Facebook groups are a labor of love. You've got somebody who absolutely loves the community and built it. In the case of the most recent one that we acquired, it was somebody that set it up because they wanted to stay in communication and it grew bigger than they wanted it to. And now they're overwhelmed by the moderation. We became active in the group and communicated with them and asked them if they needed help with moderation, at which point they said, if I could get rid of the group, I would. It's just, people expect something from me. And to them, it feels like a chore they don't get paid for. So I said, well, we'd be more than happy to take it off your hands, but we would need to monetize it because we'd have to hire a staff member to look after it. And they said, you take hold of the group, you can do whatever you want with it. So yeah, really expensive.
Yeah, you have a habit of paying too much, Adam, and so we're gonna have to talk about that. We're gonna have to talk about that a little bit. They didn't actually pay you to take it over. I'm a little disappointed. What Adam said is really, really great. A really great example of the best way to acquire these social media groups. The best way that's easiest is if you know someone there. But if you don't, then the ideal step-by-step process, I believe, is to join the group, participate in the group for a couple of weeks, and help other members, then reach out as a member of the group, not cold, to the moderator or administrator of the group and say, as Adam did, is it possible to help moderating the group? And then when they say yes or no, if they say no, then that kind of gives you an indication. You can then go to the next step and say, I'm actually interested in acquiring the group. Would you be interested in selling it? And then you go, if they say, that's if they said no, they don't want you to moderate. If they say yes, you can co-moderate, then you can have the conversation. You can go in and moderate, and you say, hey, how about if we hop on the phone and have a call and talk about how we can make the group even better? And then when you get on the phone and you talk about that, you have the ability at that time to say, have you ever thought about selling? And we'll talk about that. That's my favorite question. I like to say that in as unthreatening a way as possible. So my high-pitched question there is, do you ever think about selling? But that is, because that's not threatening, instead of, I want to buy your group, that's not really as friendly. But if you're like, do you ever think about selling? That's very, very friendly. So that's the best way to go about it. And then you start to have a dialogue around it. And as Adam said, very frequently, these are most often started as labors of love for passion. And they quickly turn into jobs, and they quickly turn into jobs that are a PITA, right? A pain in the butt. And so it's very often that what happens is they just say, actually, this is taking way too much of my time. I would love for you just to do it, right? And so that's, and then the other option would be for you to say, I'd love to do this. How much, and I think your question was about valuation, so we're getting to that. Valuation would be, well, how much did you make from the group in the last year? These deals are typically done based on profits from the last 12 months. So how much did you make from the group in the last 12 months? The answer to that is almost always nothing, or $1,000 or $700 or $3,000. And then that's your price, right? So then now you've got a price to work with. So one of the deals that we did that we'll talk about was a 250-some thousand member Facebook. I think they had 253,000 members. Our group had 250,000. We bought the group for ultimately, we asked what they wanted, and they said, $250,000. And we were like, okay, that's cool. How did you come up with that? Well, $1 a name, for the people that are in the group. So that's fantastic. Well, the way these things usually are priced is that it's based on the last 12 months of revenue. How much did you make off the last 12 months of revenue? $1,500. Great. Fantastic. So that's kind of what we'd be interested in paying. If that's something that works for you, we can talk about that. And they did, and we paid them $1,500. We did it, no money down. And we got like that's a big example. If you guys, that's why I encourage you to watch Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, because people come up with insane valuations, or even The Profit with Marcus Lemonis. You'll see people come up with crazy valuations. And when you say, how did you come up with that? And they tell you, and then you say, well, this is kind of how that it's done. That huge gap of 250,000 down to 1,500 is something that very frequently can be bridged just by having that conversation. Because most people who are thinking about selling, or who you ask about selling their business, have no idea how things are valued. So they just need to be educated in it. So that's the very long answer to your question on valuing those groups. Dee, what's the next one?
This is from our friend, hey, Dan Duran. How are you?
Dan Duran, the marketing man.
Yeah, so it says, I'm trying to get Liz to pitch in a RIA niche. So how do you find the owner of that group, and what percentage of those groups should we expect to find the owner? And another part of it is, what should I be looking for other than Facebook and LinkedIn for other groups?
Okay, so that was a multi-part question, Dan. It's kind of unfair, but let's go through, and we'll go through each one of those in turn. One question and 26 subparts. Go ahead.
How do you find the owner of the group? First question.
Yep. Okay. Find the owner of the group would be just find out who the administrator is. The administrator, who is the person who is answering the questions in the group, will either be the owner or will know the owner. So DM that person, and you will be able to have a conversation with them about that.
Right. What percentage of the group should we expect to find the owner?
By the way, I want to be clear on terminology. We use the term owner as the person who controls the group, but ultimately the owner of the group is Facebook and its shareholders, right? So that is an asset of Facebook. So when people say, well, you can't sell groups, that is true. You cannot sell ownership of the group because only Facebook could do that. So we're talking about control of the group, which is all that matters. So when we say owner of the group, we're talking about the person that controls it. So the first question we answered as to how do you find them, what was the second question?
What percent of the group should we expect to find the owner or the controller?
What percent? I would expect that you'll be able to find it in all of them because it's the person who's answering the question, right? That information is in the group. You know who is the moderator of the group. That's the person that you start with.
And then since he's in the RIA niche, what other groups should he be looking for other than Facebook and LinkedIn?
Well, so I know Phil Grove, Dan bought a ton of RIAs. For everybody that's listening, is Real Estate Investor Association. So Dan is in the real estate investing and coaching markets, and had a fantastic program that I was part of years ago when I was doing real estate investing. So really good information to get from Dan on the real estate world if you guys ever want to look for that. But the real estate investor associations. So I would be looking for real estate investor groups on Facebook. I'd be looking for real estate investor, because RIA is real estate investor associations. So the associations themselves, Phil Grove several years ago went around and bought up a whole lot of the RIAs, the real estate investor associations that were meeting locally. I would look at meetup groups. I would look at LinkedIn real estate investor groups, Facebook real estate investor groups. I would look in property manager groups and all of the services that are incidental to or around real estate investing, Dan. I'd look at the software groups. I would look at wholesale groups, flipping groups, and that would be LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram accounts about real estate investing, meetups, associations besides RIAs. There are other real estate investor associations of people who have access to real estate investors, like property managers associations, property manager newsletters, all of those things. So there's a, like that list. If you go through the 7 category worksheet that we went over in session 2, Dan, and brainstorm that, then I think you'll come up with a whole bunch of ideas.
Awesome. All
And,
right.
Chris and Adam, do you guys have anything to add to that? Did I miss anything?
I mean, I think you covered it pretty well, man. I was actually just jumped on and started looking to see some groups. There's a lot of them out there. I know something that I've mentioned to some of the people in Epic is actually just attending some of the conferences, especially the cheaper ones. Because what can happen is that shoulder to shoulder going around and talking to people, you can find these really cool little niche groups, and they're really easy to acquire as well. So sometimes just putting in that little bit of legwork. There was actually somebody I was working with recently. They had like a beginner's guide to investing in their local city, and it was done at the community college. And there was like 200 active people there that were all local. That was a great place for a realtor because, of course, they want local people. So that can be another good little addition.
Awesome. Gio, just to answer your question, and yes, it is insane, those valuations. And Minkin says, I've seen those crazy valuations as an angel investor as well. The other show besides Shark Tank was Shark Tank, is a show that's done in the United States. The international version of it is called Dragon's Den. And also there's a show called The Profit, Profit, with a gentleman named Marcus Lemonis, Lemonis. And those episodes are typically available on Hulu or iTunes, and some of them are on Netflix. And if you don't have access to those services here, then Google VPN, Virtual Private Network, and see if you can get access to them. I love British TV shows, but a lot of the BBC shows are not available here in the States. So I just get a VPN, a Virtual Private Network, set my server to London, and then I can access all of those shows for free. So that's something to think about too.
Awesome. This one's from Tanya Miller. Is there another source besides Crunchbase that we can use?
Yes, but most of those other sources are more expensive. There's PitchBook is probably the most robust, but a lot of them also pull from Crunchbase data. So and remember, Crunchbase is just one additional resource. So I also mentioned BVR, but if you're looking for free, just Google. If you Google and you use the Boolean searches that we gave you yesterday, you'll find that you can really probably find everything that you need. Press releases are another good place to look as well. So if I was looking for, like, if let's say in our example, I identified Deloitte as the accounting firm that was my comp. So you have to find your comp first, your comparable. Then I would say, well, we found it on the Deloitte site by Googling, right? But I would also look at Deloitte acquisitions press release. I would Google that, or I would click the press releases of the news tab under Google search and then search Deloitte acquisitions there. So that would be another way to go about it. But those are the best. Crunchbase is the best resource that I have found for the most reasonable price to get all the information that you need. And a lot of those more expensive services pull from there anyway.
Awesome. Ellie Soto asked, what is the average acquisition to exit cycle?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So and Xavier, you're right. Crunchbase Pro is a gold mine. It's incredibly underpriced for the value. If you're doing this, it's something that I would say is an essential thing if you're going to do this full time, but is not something you need for the challenge. The deal cycle time can be as short as the same day. It can be on a mid-level private equity deal. You're looking at probably an average of 3 to 4 months. And on a complex deal, I think the longest deal that we have had deal cycle wise, and this is from the start of negotiations, not from first approach, but from negotiations, was about 9 months. But as far as like reaching out, and Adam has a great example when he talks about, and we will have, we'll get this out of him in detail when we do our call on one of our calls. But he bought a gaming store that was brought to him by his 9-year-old son. So when you talk about how can you source deals, your family is like, people laugh when I say your kids. They're like, my kids. But Adam's a great example. His 9-year-old son was playing games at a physical brick and mortar game store, and was disappointed when they told him that the store was closing, and came to Adam and said, Dad, you do this stuff, make it go. And Adam was like, okay. And so he went down there and he bought the store. And it's a great example too that I like to use because it took quite a while. Adam, you approached and then had the deal go away and then come back. So let's talk about 2 time cycles for that specific deal. From the time that your son came to you and said, can you help, to the time you closed that deal, what was the period of time? And then what was the period of time when you actually started negotiating with the person to when it closed?
So there's a mini piece of the puzzle that actually me and Roland have never spoken about, which is I randomly got approached a week earlier by a dude asking me for $25,000.
And that was an employee, right?
That was an employee of the company. Yeah. He came to me and said, do you have $25,000? And I was like, I do. And he's like, I want to buy a game store. Would you partner with me? And I said, yeah, you've got 7 days to get me the financials. And if you find the financial in 7 days and I like them, I'll give you $25,000. And 10 days later, he came back to me with a piece of paper with some numbers written on it. And I said, no deal. And I didn't even really know what it was about. I knew it was about the game store, and that was it. But it was on
what was on the piece of paper, Adam?
It was literally, he'd printed it off, and it was like, need $25,000 for stock. Company makes between $5,000 and $10,000 a month.
And what did he offer you?
A 50% stake in the store for $25,000.
Okay, so this is great. So write that down. Everybody that's on here, write that down. It's 50% for $25,000. That's the starting place. Okay, go ahead.
That's so funny. I'd never even thought of it like that. Yeah, but you're right. That is the starting place. Mm-hmm. And so then my son came crying to me because he plays Dungeons and Dragons every Wednesday night at the game store. And he said, Dad, they're going to close the store. So I then did a little bit more research and found the owner was offering the store up for sale for $25,000 on Craigslist. Fun fact, that meant the employee was trying to do a $0 down deal, by the way, with no training, which is pretty interesting. But he had no idea what he was doing. If he'd have done this, it'd have been different. So I went into the store to meet the owner, and I sat down with him and I said, what was the deal? And he outlined, I'd get the store, I'd get the brand, I'd get all the stock, I'd get everything. And he wanted $25,000. And I used my absolute favorite tool of negotiation, which I got from Roland, where you say yes. And all deals start with yes, absolutely. Because if the deal is good, why would I not do it? You know, if it's worth $25,000, of course I'd pay it. I've got it. So I said, yep, absolutely. I just need to see the numbers. I need to see due diligence and confirm that everything is as you said. So he goes away and he brings it back. And what we see is he hasn't actually got any accounting books for the last 2 years. He's completely not got it done. He says he's paid his taxes, but we've got no evidence of this. I mean, it's just a nightmare. And so I explained to him that I'm not going to go ahead at that price because there's too much risk. I was like, for all I know, you've taken a loan out that I just can't see here. And so I said, so new deal. I could see the numbers. I could see that it was losing about $1,000 a month. And I said, new deal. I'm willing to take it off your hands at 10,000, but I don't want the brand. You can keep the brand. I'm going to start a brand new business. I'll take over the assets, which he valued at $10,000, and I'll take over your rent, which I knew was hurting him. And he's like, no deal, that's not good enough. And I was like, no problem whatsoever. You know, you keep going as long as you can. But we actually had a gentleman's agreement. I was like, don't let the store close. I was like, that's my son will cry. Don't let the store close. Like, don't have an ego about it. Come and talk to me before you do that. And he said, no problem. So I just went away. This is the next period, I suppose, Roland. This is where the next time frame goes by. And we wait a couple of months. And every month I'd go in, pick up my kid, Dungeons and Dragons every Wednesday. Hey, how's life? How's business? Still hurting? You know, just friendly, like, is everything okay? And I remember it was after about 2 months, I saw his wife in the store because she would come and hang out. And I said to her, how do you feel about it? And this was the real push. She's like, well, I wish she was at home. It's very expensive. You know, there's other things we can be doing. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I was like, you know, just so you know, my offer's real. I get it's not what you guys want, but it's real. And they hadn't had any other good offers. There's a few things, but nothing had come along. And so he comes up to me and he says, okay, we'll do a deal at 10,000. And have you told him about the deferred advance yet, Roland?
No. We don't want to get into that just yet, but you can say that you structured it so you didn't have to come out of pocket. We will tell them that on day 4.
So there are some very cool ninja moves that you guys will learn. But the long story is, the long and short of it is, they agreed to $10,000. At which point I did even more due diligence. And I went in and I found a way to negotiate even further. I worked out how to liquidate the stock that he had that was out of date by selling it on eBay. And there's some other little details here that we'll go into later. But
ultimately, you turned it into, as I recall, it was either somewhere between 3 and 5 different income streams, right? That they were not realizing.
Yeah, we found 3 to 5 other income streams, ways of making money that basically we could pay for the store with their money. So it took no money from me. We used the store to pay for the store. So it bought me ownership. And then one of the cool things was they were misusing their back rooms. They had this storage facility they were misusing, which we gutted and turned into an edit suite for our video production company. And so we gained edit suite offices and saved $2,000 a month in rent for office space. So that goes to answer Roy Weissman's question, was how did you know this was a good business? Roy, he knew it was a good business because when he went in and talked to the owner and looked at the spot, he saw all the opportunities. He saw, number one, that he was able to get into the business without having to come out of pocket any money. And he was able to also see that there were multiple places that he could take. When he looked at the financials for the company, the income statement, saw how it was not profiting, it was losing. I think, was it 5,000 or 10,000 a month, Adam? Yeah, it was making about 10 G's a month, but it was losing 1,000. It had zero profit, and they were just sinking $1,000 every month.
Yeah, so losing $1,000 a month, and then he said, "Oh, well, okay, I can do this with it, this with it, this with it. I can not have to come out of money." Not have to come out of pocket with money. And I see that there's an opportunity to do a few things that turn it into, I think it was about a $5,000 or $7,000 a month profit right off the bat. Adam, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, we instantly started profiting. It was, we made like 10 G's that first month.
Yeah, exactly. And just because I'm also answering questions in the chat, this is one that I want to point out. Amara said that she was really struggling with the homework, possibly overthinking, simply want to bolt on services to her current marketing agency by acquiring other agencies, and searching for public traded companies is leading her to a dead end. So I gave her several resources, but I just want to share with you kind of how I would go about looking for these. So to answer her question, I just came onto the Googles and I Googled publicly held marketing agencies. and instantly I got WWP Group with the stock symbol, Omnicron, Publicis, and Interpublic. So then I would go and look at those. And then I also scroll down here and you can see publicly traded advertising companies is an SIC code. SIC is Standard Industrial Classification Code. And when you click on that, it takes you to this page and you can see industries. This is on Fintel's site, fintel.io, and advertising industry. And it gives me a list of sub-industries, which is 7311, advertising industries. But then it gives me all of these public companies. And this is on OTC is in the United States. This means over the counter. NASDAQ, the National Association of Securities Dealers Association quotation site, right? Gives me the symbols, the country that it's in, and all of these publicly traded stocks. So I have all kinds, look at that. That's a giant list of places that I can go and look. So if you're having trouble, don't be afraid to Google. The information is out there. So all you had to do here was Google publicly held marketing agencies, right? And you could Google other things as well. And then another thing that I found was I Googled list of marketing agencies. So list of whatever company in whatever categories you guys want. And then I came down and I saw creative agencies ranked by a domain rank. That's kind of cool. So agency list. So I clicked on that. And then there's this whole agency list. And what's cool is I think, Amara, that you said you were in California, and you see, let me go back to that. You see here that it says Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Jose, Sacramento, and San Diego is where the data is available in California. So I can click on California and then get all of the Los Angeles advertising agencies. So now I've got them, and they're categorized by subcategories, right? So when you said you want to figure out what to add on to your existing agency, now I know, you can say, oh, I could do an advertising company, a web design company, a video production company, a school, SEO, which is search engine optimization, software development, internet marketing. I could do publications, community, job resources. So this is telling you agency services. And then you can see different companies that you can look into, digital marketing, branding. All of this is here. You just have to Google a little bit. So don't be afraid to hit the Googles, right? And then I also clicked on digital marketing agency reviews. Here, this was the list of top digital marketing agency companies by a company called Clutch.co. And again, this lists lots and lots of companies with rankings and ratings, and all of those can lead to additional ideas. So there's lots and lots of places that you guys can go on here to find stuff. You just have to think a little bit about Googling that type of information. Dee, next question.
Awesome. The next one is going to be Calvin Delia says, would you buy a distressed company using what we're learning to rebuild and then sell? Because this company I'm looking at is currently in a Chapter 7.
So say it one more time.
Would you buy a distressed company and then use what we're learning to rebuild and then sell? Because this company is a Chapter 7.
Yeah, so this goes to what I said earlier, which is, we have done that. If you're in a Chapter 7 situation, you can reach out and you would talk to the bankruptcy trustee. If they've not yet had their 341A meeting, which is the first meeting of the creditors, then I would definitely go to that meeting at the bankruptcy court where you'll be able to hear what the creditors have to say. I would pull the Chapter 7 bankruptcy filing copy that lists all of the assets. They have to file a full list of assets in the filing. That's available at the bankruptcy court. You can go down there and pull that and take a look at it. You can usually they'll sell you a copy of it for what it costs to print out, $5 or something like that. And then you might also look at the bankruptcy filing. The courthouse filings online might have the ability to let you look at that remotely. And then you can see, are there any assets there that make sense for you to acquire? Now the challenge is that the creditors will also be bidding on those assets because they are going to lose their money. So in a liquidating bankruptcy, which is a Chapter 7, that means that the owner is no longer in control. The trustee, the bankruptcy trustee, takes over the bankruptcy estate. So the trustee effectively has control of that company and will decide what the disposition is with an approval of the bankruptcy court. So you're involving a lot of other stuff in here that that might be overly complicating versus starting out with something else. But if you absolutely positively got to have that company and it's in bankruptcy, it's a great way to go, right? So it's just more hair, more complexity, right? That's the question with dealing with that. But you absolutely can buy companies out of bankruptcy and they can be fantastic to own. And what's cool about it is they come with a clean slate, because a Chapter 7 bankruptcy automatically wipes out all the debt. So as far as worrying about something percolating up from the past, it can't. Like by statute, it can't. So that is something to consider.
All right, the next question is from Bobby Prahitno. I hope I said that correctly, Bobby. Sorry. Is seed investing a good avenue to explore within this EPIC framework?
Say that one more time. Is
seed investing a good avenue to explore?
No, I don't. I mean, that's not really what we do. That's a different kind of thing. So I would stay away from that right now. And Amara, I want to have a conversation with you, because I want to be sure that we serve you. You said you were looking for actual businesses versus ideas. So I just want to understand how the lists of businesses that we just pulled up are not actual businesses. Because if I'm looking here, this is 52,004 actual firms. These are not ideas. These are actual companies, right? And in the other site that we pulled up, the list of things on agency list, and we clicked here and we found companies and we went into California, and those are categories. These are actual companies listed under all of these categories. So you have a list of companies. This is not ideas. This is actual companies. Okay, so I don't know how to help you any more than that. Like, that's actual lists of companies by category that you can reach out and talk to. Okay, I love you and I want to help you, but you gotta look here. Okay, you gotta do a little bit of work. That's not just ideas. That's actual companies. Okay, go ahead, Dee.
All right, Jeremy Kovatana says, when you begin acquiring, how do you protect yourself from fraudulent financials, or to ensure that you actually get the percentage that you've acquired?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that happens in the due diligence phase, and that is something that you generally will hire an attorney or an accountant to help you go through that due diligence. But keep in mind here, because we're buying, and thank you, Jim, for the explanation of Chapter 7 being good. In this situation, you're not coming out of pocket to buy the company, and you're buying it in the SPV, that special purpose vehicle, right? So you don't have personal liability, and your companies don't have personal liability unless you elect to take it on, right? You don't have any. So the due diligence is really mostly important for your time, the use of your time. And so sometimes we'll close a small deal like the one that Adam was talking about without any due diligence on the front, just to get the deal done, because we don't have any liability, and then we'll do the due diligence after. To protect yourself, you'll go through the things that we'll talk about when we go over due diligence. But that's typically, you'll do LDD, CDD, and FDD. That stands for legal due diligence. That's making sure that all their contracts are good and that there are no claims outstanding litigation-wise. There's ways to do that, and there's companies that'll do it for you, or you can do it yourself, but it is a lot of work. And then commercial due diligence is CDD. That's looking at the actual business, the industry, how happy are the customers, the customer contracts, that kind of stuff. And then the FDD is the financial due diligence, to see that the accounting records are correct. So the best way to do that would be to have an accountant come in and look at it. You could actually have a forensic accountant come in and look at it. But again, if you're not exposed to any out of pocket, I think you get the deal done on a small deal, and then do your due diligence after. And then if something isn't right, you just build a provision into the contract that says, if I find out anything isn't as said, then I'm going to walk away from the deal. Okay, Dee?
Awesome. Russ Yeager has a fitness wellness industry and owns 2 personal training franchise locations. His franchise business has sold 1 or 2 units at a 2 to 3 times multiple, has never been a larger exit by any franchise. So does it make sense to acquire what I know for more cash flow, or do I focus on acquiring the businesses that can sell for higher multiples?
Okay, so we got, we'll go to our growth person, Chris. Chris, do you think it is better to, what were the 2 options there, Dee?
Keep
Does it
for
make sense
cash
to acquire
flow.
what I know for more cash flow, or do I focus on acquiring the business that can sell for a higher multiple?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I
Chris?
think it really depends on what you need. As long as today's cash flow needs are met and you can play a longer game. The way that Roland shared the concept of creating 60 years worth of income from, playing the multiple game, like I had never really considered it that way. Normally I would say, hold on to the cash flow if that fits with what you're looking for. And then roll them up, maybe sell them all together. But knowing, again, what Roland referenced earlier, I'm reconsidering that position.
Well, I think that you can eat your cake and have it too. So I think that my answer, was it Russ?
Russ.
So Russ, I think my answer to that would be, you've got your franchise company now, and now you've seen there's this opportunity to look at other companies with multiples. So the best thing to do, I think, would be if you take the worksheet that we gave you that says core, and then it has media, team resources, services, products, supply chain, IP. I would look to acquire companies in those supporting areas that lend themselves to higher multiples. So that's an exercise that we go through. Like when we're buying a company for ourselves, we go through and look at what are the multiples that, as a matter of fact, in that worksheet, you'll see that there's a little corner that says M equals, and up in the corner, which I didn't really talk about, we actually, and I'm going to give you guys a sheet with a whole bunch of industry multiples on day 4, I think it is, day 4 or day 5. And we'll look and say, okay, here's all the companies that we've identified that we might buy in those 7 different categories. Then we say, well, what's the multiple that those types of companies are selling for? Then we write M equals, we write the highest multiple in each of those categories: media, team, services, products, supply, IP, that we find in that category. And that's the place that we look to go first. Right? Because if we have the choice of focusing on anything to acquire, why not acquire the thing that's got the highest potential multiple? So that's how you go. So I think you can do both. I don't think you have to make a decision one way or the other.
All right. Tamitha has the next question. It says, how would you transfer a Facebook group under your business page? And would you keep the admin for the group that you purchased there to manage the page for you?
So Adam, I'll let you take that, having acquired one recently, and then I will give you my 2 cents.
So yeah, I think it really depends on a case-by-case basis. In the situation that we went after, they didn't want anything to do with it anymore. So obviously keeping them on board was really difficult. However, we actually have a team here that manage, Facebook groups in a similar kind of vertical. So it's very easy to just give them the Facebook group and then it's a piece of cake. So I think, but it really does come on a case-by-case basis. You may find that the owner of the group wants out, but the moderator is happy to stay, which then makes everything easy for you. So it's really about looking at it individually.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Agree 100%. All right, Dee, what do we got?
Okay. Antonio Thornton says, who's the ideal person to connect with to kick off conversations? Would it be the CEO or the development manager? And is there a strategy to get that info or background on the company before you reach out to the real decision makers?
Day 3. We're going to talk about all that on Monday. You will have all of your questions on that answered. Good question. Awesome. Absolutely.
And Rodney Vincent is asking, when you're talking about multiples here, are you referring to the PE ratio?
PE is price earnings ratio. So that's usually something that is done with respect to stock listings. So what we're talking about when we're talking about the multiple is when, and who was it that asked?
Rodney Vincent.
Rodney, so the way that businesses typically sell or are valued is on the stock exchange, it's a price earnings ratio, right? The price of the stock is a multiple of the earnings of the company. When you get to non-owner operated businesses that are privately held, then your valuation is done based on EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. And when you go to buy companies, to value companies that are held by individuals that are owner operated, they're typically valued as a multiple of SDE, or seller discretionary earnings, which equals EBITDA plus the benefits the owner is getting from the company, like their nanny being paid, their car being paid, their travel to Hawaii being paid, all those things that I know none of you guys would put in your company and have as deductions for from taxes. You definitely would not want to do that. So that is how those different valuations, and there's the last time I looked, there's I think like 150 plus different ways to value companies, right? For our purposes, multiples are generally a rule of thumb that's used in the industry. And if you're talking about owner operated companies, it is a number of times a multiple of SDE. If you're talking about non-operated owner operated companies, it's usually a multiple of EBITDA. If you're into the public companies, it's a multiple of earnings called PE.
Awesome. All right. Dave Senton asks, I'm in the coaching space and I'm interested in acquiring businesses that rank for my keywords. Does it make sense to buy the Dancing Bear businesses, or is there a better way to work with those companies to achieve the same results?
It's a great question too. And it just depends. Is Dave?
Dave,
it just depends, Dave. It's if you, well, actually, because I know both Chris and Adam are familiar with those kinds of businesses. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? So basically, companies that are ranking high on the Googles for particular keywords that Dave wants to rank for, which is a fantastic way to go. What are you guys' thoughts on, does he buy the Dancing Bear companies? Does he just buy the website? Does it make sense to buy the Dancing Bear companies? Love to get your take, Adam.
I'm gonna share with you something that Roland taught me. This is some complicated math, so bear with me. If the business has a valuation of $1 million and you can acquire 40% of that business rather than the whole thing for $400K down, you keep the Dancing Bear in the business, but you've got a percentage of it allowing you to, by the way, utilize the assets in that for other things. Then if you can help that business double within a year, your $400,000 acquisition, which you'd get for zero down, is $800,000. Then after year one, you sell 75% of your acquisition, which still probably gives you access to the assets and the ability to use the fact that they rank on the website. You sell 75% to 600 grand, which is far more than you put in initially, and still leaves you with the equivalent of a 200K investment. The person you sell it to is somebody who's amazing at scale, like Mr. Chris Daigle here, for example. And then over the next 2 years, it 5Xs, taking the business value to 10 million or your $200,000 stake for $1 million. This is the kind of thing that I would want to do with Dancing Bear businesses, where I'm not owning the whole business. I'm coming in, taking a percentage to help them scale. And then once I've had my bit of growth, sell off a chunk of that to somebody else to take over it and help it grow. I'm sitting back, but I do get to enjoy the assets. And I do a lot of asset acquisition, which we'll talk about later on.
Yeah, and Felita asked, what is a Dancing Bear business? And thank you, because we use some of these terms all the time, and it doesn't occur to us to explain them. So anytime you guys don't understand anything, feel free to ask. Dancing Bear is a term that I got from a conversation between Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. And Tony said to Dean, he said, you know, we're dancing bears. When we stop dancing, meaning working, then the money stops coming. And I want to change that. And so Tony said, I'm writing a book called Money Master the Game. And it's going to be designed to stop me from having to be a dancing bear, because if I can't speak, if I can't travel, he didn't even think about all of his events, because I speak at some of Tony's events. All of his events for 2020 are canceled. So he didn't even think about that then, right? If I stop doing what I do, then the money stops. And so I need to think of a way to not have to be performing, meaning working, to receive money and wealth. And so Money Master the Game was designed to accomplish that for him, and it did it very, very well. He released the book after partnering with a mutual fund. And so he released his book and used his media channels, as I would recommend that all of you do, to drive customers to this book. And the book drove customers to invest in the fund. And he said, if I can get $1 billion under management, which isn't that hard with funds, I know it sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not with a fund, then I'll be set. And within a short time after releasing the book, he had $2 billion in the fund. And I think the last I heard it was 4 or 5. So that's the dancing bear. Don't be the person who has to work to earn money. You want to be an investor. You want to be above the business. Okay. Okay, cool. Dee?
Okay, the next one is from Rodney. Says, can you talk a little bit about small fish acquiring the big fish? It seems like it's an impossible task on paper, but this happens on a daily basis. So what are the things a smaller company can leverage off to acquire the bigger company?
Okay, Chris?
Chris, you want me to read it again?
Yeah,
It's from Rodney.
Yeah, go ahead. Read it one more
Looking at
time.
the question
Okay,
here.
from Rodney says, can you talk a little about a small fish acquiring the big fish? It seems impossible on paper, but it happens daily. So what are the things a small company can leverage off to acquire the bigger company?
So one of the things that that I like to do is when I'm having a conversation with a bigger company or a company, find out what their problems are and look at those as me. Because when I approach these people, I'm looking to solve a problem, right? If I'm a problem solver, then I am, as Roland likes to mention, he's on the same side of the table with them. It's not a zero-sum adversarial thing. So in a case like this, if I was the small going towards the larger competitor, I would see what problems I could solve for them by maybe helping them with a sale of some of those assets or divisions to me, helping them, brokering that, taking care of the problem for them. So that would be my approach. I'm not going to be a big, but if you got enough money, I'm sure that the bigger company says yes. And a lot of times we don't necessarily see the backstory, but there's a lot of financial leverage behind the smaller fish taking on the bigger company. So again, unless you're very, like you've got the infrastructure in place to handle those types of deals, you acquiring much larger, the bigger fish in the organization, I would look at see if you couldn't be the lamprey that swims along the bigger fish and eats off the pieces that you want while solving that problem for the bigger fish. That would kind of be my, that's all I got to say on that.
Okay, Adam?
Yeah, I do this quite a lot. And this is something that I know we talk about in the challenge, which is I love doing asset acquisition and management for the site for a big company. Big companies have a lot of assets. They don't always utilize them and use them correctly. And having someone that's smart that comes in and says, hey, I'm going to take, exactly like Chris said, take this problem away for you. And then I'm going to knock this out and negotiate yourself a percentage of that is a piece of cake. I just broke down yesterday. I did a deal literally yesterday where I acquired a percentage of one of my competitors' assets, not his business, but his assets. I don't need the business if I've got his assets, and I'll use that, make money. And it's hysterical because his company is 6 times bigger than mine. But in the deal that I acquired, I get 80% and he gets 20%. So I get 80% of usage of all of his assets, or I get 80% of the money from all of his assets, even though he's 6 times bigger than me. They're the kind of deals that I like doing.
Yeah, the other place that that smaller companies acquire bigger companies is that most private equity funds are termed investments, meaning that they only exist for a period of years, and it might be 7, it might be 10, but they have to give back the money to the investors at the end of the term. And so they'll frequently have companies that did amazingly well, and they'll frequently have companies that didn't perform as expected. And the didn't perform as expected companies then have to be sold relatively quickly and usually at a loss to the private equity company because they didn't turn out like they wanted. And so you can go and acquire those companies as well, those end of term private equity group companies. To find out more about them, it's good to start plugging into the private equity world. And that's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're talking about doing here, because those are usually are out-of-pocket deals. You can do them without coming out of pocket, but they're complicated. So right now, I want to keep it simple. But the other thing would be corporate divisions. So frequently, companies will be pivoting or will be acquired, and then a division of that bigger company will come available. And that might be significantly bigger than you are, or if you haven't yet bought a company, it might be kind of scary. But we went through a deal where we had an underperformer that was owned by a private equity company a few years ago, a brand that you would all be aware of. And they were doing a little over 100 million in sales. And we were able to reach an agreement to acquire it in the 70 million plus range. And that was done through us identifying the deal, interviewing management, and then securing the funding through banks. But at that level, it's not a deal that we were personally guaranteeing. We were basically facilitating the deal, and there was a deal fee of $1.6 million or $1.7 million for putting the deal together, cash up front, plus an ownership of 20% of the profits of the company after the investors got their money back. And then that left a down payment as a gap. The down payment, we initially approached a family office. The family office agreed to do the deal. Family office pulled out of the deal at the last minute. We went and found another fund to do the deal, and on and on and on. Ultimately, we got down to the agreement and everything done, and the seller's representative, which was an investment banker facilitating it, killed the deal. And they ended up selling for less money, I think, a few years later. So it's like, that was a tremendous amount of work to do. The payoff for us was huge, and we wouldn't have had to come out of pocket any money, but that's a lot of work on a deal. And the chances of those deals going through, they are high risk for not going through because there's so many other competitors. But you can, all of those different ways, the ways that Adam mentioned and the ways that I mentioned would be ways for you to think about acquiring a bigger company. That doesn't scare us at all.
Awesome. All right. Let's see here. We're going to go with John. I think it's John Christofferson. Says, in my industry, the company that I view as the main competitor is not public. They're in Crunchbase and have done 5 acquisitions. Is this a good one to start with, or do I need to look for a public company?
Okay, go ahead. I'll let Chris take that start.
You're muted, Chris.
Sorry.
There you go.
I think it's a great place to start. It's in an industry that you know. If you already have dialogue with them, that makes it the approach a lot easier. You can leverage their existing infrastructure where you're weak, vice versa, to make this a much more streamlined organization, or even keep them separate. Fabricate or manufacture competition in the marketplace between your two brands is always a good idea. And if they're not publicly traded, they're going to be a lot easier to talk about. I don't know what the size of the enterprise is, but usually with the deals that that get presented in this environment of the training tend to be like $5 million and less. And if that's the size of that business, odds are the owner of that business is going to be very easy to talk to, and they're going to be maybe the key decision maker or the only decision maker. And we talk about this in some of the other stuff that we do, but once you've gotten rapport from these people, it's easy to find out, again, we're solving that problem, what the real motivation is behind the sale. And then you start doing what Adam does. You just start pulling the thread. Once you get to where you can get them to open up about, well, what are you going to do after? What are you going to do with all that money? Like those sorts of things. It creates a term that I've heard Roland use several times, optionality. The more options you have, the higher the likelihood that you're going to complete the endeavor successfully. So, but yeah, I think that somebody that you already know their business, the avatar of their customer, like that just makes it so much easier than you finding some random deal that gets presented to you in an industry where you don't have relationships or experience or history or know like what the paradigm is of that business. So I think it's a great place to start.
Exactly. Okay, Dee?
Awesome. All right. And then we've got here from Brian Burt. Hi guys, loving this challenge so far. If you were to identify the top 3 skill sets that I should focus on becoming this investor, what would you say those 3 skill sets are?
Yes, and I answered that in the in the chat, the live chat, but so everybody can hear it. Number one, networking, because that gets you deal flow. Number two, negotiation, because that makes the best deals that serve all the parties in the best ways. And three, creative deal stack structuring, meaning being able to figure out multiple ways to fund and structure the deal. Those are the three, to me, most important things. And you will get a lot of that as we go through the challenge.
All right. How many companies can I acquire under one LLC?
1 million. 1 million companies. There is no limit to the number of companies that you can acquire. It's really just how many you can handle, right?
Awesome. And Antonio says, I may have missed this, but is there a way to do specific research on the companies that are trending upward?
Yeah, we talked about that. That's just Google. Google the industries, look at Ibis World, look at trendwatching.com, trendhunter.com, the reports from JWT Intelligence, all of those things.
Okay. Angela Giampolo says, would I still search the way that you're advising if I'm looking to acquire solo small law practices, like searching through Crunchbase?
Say that one more time.
Would I still search the way that you're advising if I'm looking to acquire solo small law practices, like, for example, searching through Crunchbase or Googling comps and using the 1,000+ person law firms that you suggested with accounting firms?
Are you an attorney, Angela? Because if you are, then you can probably acquire law firms. But if you're not, I believe Washington, D.C. is the only state that allows you. Okay, cool. So there you might look at Martindale Hubbell online. And see if that, a listing of those firms in your agency, like in San Diego, the San Diego Transcript publishes a list of law firms. So I'd be looking at law firm lists to do that. I think that's going to give you the greatest result, the easiest.
Okay. Jerry Severin says, we have a business that sells PPE kits, which is a growing market. So is there anything to think about when it comes to selecting acquisition targets? Because competitors might be more reluctant to sell or want to have a higher price tag. So they might want to be more reluctant to sell. Or would you rather the manufacturer companies be a better target rather than the competitor?
Yeah, I think I would, to me, it's the same thing. It's going to be the same, strategies that you use for a company that's doing PPE as anything else. Chris or Adam, do you guys have any other comments on that?
Adam, please.
Yeah, so I think that I want to break this down because there's like a bunch of different questions here. So is there anything to think about when selecting acquisition targets? For me, my number one thing, and this is big on what Roland says, I'm always networking. I'm going to buy things that I know. And I don't necessarily mean the industry I know, I mean the people I know. I want to get in with the business. I want to meet the owners. I actually like doing a bit of weird due diligence where I sneak into the company when no one's around, just start talking to people and start chatting. And I learned so much about a company from doing that. And if it's something like where that would be frowned upon, I'll just phone up and start talking to people and imagining I'm a customer and just see what kind of experience it's like. Competitors, when you say like reluctant to sell, I can tell that your mindset's a little bit off there. Most people, they're not selling to get rid of it. They're selling because they want to do something bigger and better. If this is a new industry, you're right, they might be less likely to sell off the whole thing, but they might be open to selling off part of it where you can sit in as like more like an investor kind of role and advisor to help it grow and scale and enjoy the upside. So there's like a whole piece there. And then would you rather acquire manufacturing companies rather than a competitor? Yes, but this is a key thing that Roland talks about all the time. You want to think like, what other pieces of the puzzle are they going to need? What about client acquisitions companies, lead agencies? These are other people. Rather than thinking like just in terms of manufacturing, what are the ancillary parts to it? Like, is there a company that specializes in Facebook advertising for PPE? That would be a great person to acquire. So there's a lot more here. And then your last thing, if you look at the acquisitions of major companies like what Deloitte buys that might be at a higher price point, how do you take revenue factors into consideration? So when it comes to deal structuring, I sit down, I'll outline everything, and then I'll like create like a spider graph, I suppose, and I'll start going through and thinking all of the different things that I can do and where else I can monetize. Roland has a great example of McDonald's and how the people that went in there realized that the way they produced the burgers, well, it wasn't McDonald's, it was the original person behind McDonald's went in and acquired a burger place and saw the way they produced the burgers was so streamlined that was the process they took and they could utilize. And Roland's got a whole story about it. But that's the kind of thing I'll do. I'll go into a company and really look at their processes and think, what else can we borrow from here and utilize? And I'll do that, by the way, even if I'm not acquiring a company. I remember, like, you guys know, I have a game store. I've got about 7 different businesses. But when I travel, I went to Russia and I would go into a game store with no intention to acquire it and start poking around and would learn the way they structure things and then bring them back to America and steal those concepts for $0 now. But, you know, so yeah, there's a lot there. So I look at, when it comes to revenue factors, that's a piece. I want to look at every little piece, like their sales structures, their funnels, absolutely everything. So, you know, the deal that I did yesterday with the bigger company where I acquired their assets, that came about. They originally wanted to bring me on to be the COO of their company. That's how this started. And so they're like, we need a COO. You'd be great. And I instantly just put myself out of that role. I was like, I'm not going to do that. But the reason you want a COO is because you want to monetize these assets that are underused. Let me just do that piece for you.
And having that conversation. So don't shut down people that ask questions like that, where, you know, like Adam knew that was not what he wanted to do, but rather than saying, no, that's not for me, and moving on, he asked a little bit more information, and, you know, and that can turn into deals. I do want to also, I'm just going to share my screen for a minute to help Angela and help you guys as well. So what I did was I just Googled list of solo practice law firms, because that's what she wanted to find information on. And then I looked down. You know, the ads didn't look like anything I wanted. Bar association, this is find out how they can leverage technology, ethics. I don't care about the ethics opinion, or starting or small. How should I name resources? No, I was kind of disappointed as I looked through Google, and then I found US lawyers list, which is what I was looking for. And I don't know why they don't put that up higher, but it's an ad. And I clicked on the ad, and then it gives me the US attorney lawyer database, 1.9 million contact records with emails, all 50 states plus DC. And I can, and here's my information. So now she can sort by name, address, location, the area code, they phone numbers on several of them, look at their websites to kind of check them out. And then this is the key. Number of employees will help as a size delimiter, because if she's looking for solo practices, then you can look for just a few, but also find out the annual revenue. And then we know that there's an SIC code and description for this. So then I would go maybe and search the SIC code for attorneys, and then see if there are any sub SIC codes, that's standard industrial classification code. And that would maybe get me additional lists. So that's just to kind of help you guys see, like, how does this research go? That can be very, very helpful. Okay, Dee, let's do maybe 2 or 3 more, and then we'll call it, because we don't want to get everybody too tired here.
Well, good news, we only have 2.
Fabulous.
All right, so Dolores Hirschman says, we are a business and a communication strategy business, and we offer some done-for-you services, including the digital product management. We also just sold one of them to another company. I'm looking to buy a solid traffic company to launch my company for the LATAM market. What are examples of traffic deals that you've done successfully?
Well, that would be case studies that we talk about on day 4. So let's save that for day 4. Let's go to next question.
Okay, sorry, there we go. And Sunny Tran, how are you? It says, I own a few businesses and would like to know that can the core business just be a category and minus financial, and then all feed into the overall income of the smaller financial companies?
Okay, hang on 1 second, Dee. So it's not minus, it's mines. So his. So,
and mine, sorry.
I own a few businesses and would like to know that the core business, and would like to know that can the core business be just a category of, and mine is a financial, and then all feed into the over. I don't really understand that question. Sunny, can you let's see, example, other businesses I own or operate are mortgage, life insurance, property, casualty, et cetera, et cetera. So I think what you're asking is the core business be a category and then feed into the overall income of the smaller companies. Yeah, you can set that up any way you want, Sunny. It's that's totally up to you, and you might have different different reasons or different ways of structuring it for tax purposes and liability and everything else.
I believe you've answered them all.
Yay, we have answered them all. I want to thank you guys, and I really appreciate. Angela said that that this is something that's really been helpful to hear other people's questions as well. And that's why we make the Q&A. We do this as a session to really, really help you guys get answers and see the answers we find for other people. Thank you, Jim. And I want to thank Adam and Chris for taking time out of their day to help you guys. This is just, something that they did to be nice. And I also want to thank Deanna and Matt for taking time on a Saturday, because it's above and beyond the call of duty, to help you guys. And we are all here to serve you, to help you, to make this program work, to get you through the challenge. So be sure that you post all your homework in the Facebook group. Don't forget, they're cool bonuses. We do throw bonuses out for everybody that participates. Thank you for being on the call. And is there anything else that you have to say other than letting people know what we're doing next, either Matt or Deanna?
I just posted my information again, so please let me know if you need anything. I'm here to help and support you.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Matt?
Yeah, real quick, just because there was a lot of questions about it. So we will be sending out this recording again this evening once it's done. And just so everybody knows, in that email, we'll also include the recordings from day 1 and day 2. So it's all there, easily accessed. You can also get in the Facebook group, but every day we send an email after, we also include the links from the days before. So you always have a running list of all the recordings and the workbooks right there. So watch for that email, and you can also grab them in the Facebook group.
And then just one last thing, which is that we currently are 112 people away from hitting our group referral goal to get some extra cool stuff to you guys. So please tell anyone that you think this would be beneficial for about it, and send them to getepichallenge.com. And we would love if you would take a minute right now and do that as soon as you get off of this Zoom, and just tell someone else that you think could benefit from this, because we want to hit that 1,200 goal and we want to get you guys that extra bonus. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you all for being on, and we'll talk to you on Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern, which puts us at, what time is that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock, I think, in the UK, and 8 o'clock in other parts of Europe. Look forward to having you guys on again. Have a wonderful weekend.